Hello
Hey!
and welcome to IGN Live. Brian Montano, that's Max Scoville. IGN's not live. This is not what we call this show.
This
This is
is live. That's
Afternoon
not the
Live.
name of the
Yeah.
show. We're not live. None of this is true. No,
Well,
we're
sometimes if we say it's IGN Live, we might get more viewers who think that we might
we
be
should.
showing
Yeah,
off
this is the
exclusive
world
gameplay
premiere
of GTA
exclusive
6.
live stream of a new game that hasn't come out. No, this is
Cyberpunk 2.
yeah, exactly. This is the show that we do every week. Sometimes, usually live, but this week we're not live because of scheduling conflicts. And also, if we seem frantic, it's because it's the second time we've recorded this because we had technical problems and there's supposed to be like a plumber or something coming very soon. So if I have to run out at the last minute, that's why. So let's get to the fun part. Let's talk about the games.
That's right. So it's been a week since the PS5 launched in North America. It just came out today in the UK. It's been very difficult to find, but people who have found it have realized that Demon Souls kicks ass. A lot of you knew that a long time ago, but one cool thing that they added this time around is an incredibly robust, at least for FromSoft standards, character creator. And you can go in there, make all sorts of realistic looking men and women and, just weird old demon people and stuff.
I think the original did have a character creator, but like FromSoft games are known for making like some kind of weird looking characters. But this is like shockingly beautiful. Like this is a really like these people look really gorgeous. You can make some really incredible looking characters and really just bring kind of whoever you want to life. So of course you took it upon yourself to kind of bring one of the folk heroes of the 21st century to life.
Yeah, I would say one of the most iconic modern day superheroes, a character that we all grew up with, beloved, and who knows his way around a sort of like a bit of medieval regalia, if you will. And his name is
Shrek.
Shrek.
So here's the thing. This is a really beautiful character creator. So if you're trying to make like total like Fuggo creations, it's kind of hard. Like this is Shrek looks way too pretty.
Yeah, and so like here's the thing. There's obviously we'll get into what works and what doesn't work. You can make green people or greenish yellow people in this game. You can give them huge honking noses, but that's actually the biggest you can get. You give them big beautiful eyes. There he is. There's that man. Hi, how are you?
I like it.
Yeah. And so another cool thing that I really like about this is you can sort of scale the ears and move them in different directions. Now, once you bring this Shrek out into the world and pop in that photo mode, you can have a lot more fun with it. He starts to clip into his own geometry. I made his cheeks real big, give him a nice big bald head.
So one thing I love in the photo mode is you can change the expressions. So you can do all sorts of like, this is a very unshrekly look here. Like this is kind of just a creepy, it looks like a weird uncle. I don't know.
Yeah,
this looks like the I'd buy that for $1 guy from RoboCop. This is weird. But
yeah,
look at those teeth. Those teeth are so impressive.
Yeah, they're really, really good. Now, obviously, you can't make Shrek's ears like he has in the movies, because those are like weird little, like little wigglers, whatever those things are, those little tubes. But you can make some tiny-ish, long-ish ears and kind of pop them out a little bit. So yeah, like we said, there's some limitations, but yeah, let's see.
You can make
we also
sad
made
Shrek.
You can make a sad Shrek.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Donkey. Yeah, no, so one thing is also like, I mean, we joke because it's stupid and it's funny, but Shrek like actually kind of does fit into Demon Souls. Like you've got like Farquaad looking dudes in pantaloons, and you've got a red dragon flying around and big castles, and there's even that sad dead horse when you first start out, which is kind of like if Eddie Murphy didn't want to buy a eighth house and decided to appear not in Shrek 5 and they had to kill him off in the road.
Yeah, and then Shrek has this vengeance story to go on. That's the cool thing about knowing your own character. See? He's sad about it. Like, you can actually kill a bunch of dudes as Shrek. You'll be covered in blood. It's a good time. So I suggest, you can role play the entirety of Demon Souls as Shrek. It might make you angrier or happier when you die repeatedly. But either way, that's your prerogative. That said, I'm a Nintendo fan, right? I'm a big old school Nintendo guy, and I really love Super Mario. But Super Mario never really gets rendered in like 4K Ultra HDR, right? Because he's always on like the Nintendo Switch and the Wii U and the Wii and the 3DS. And he's just looking like a funny little cartoon character. So here's my Super Mario in Demon Souls. He is just horrible.
It's pretty good. It's okay. Really, don't do that. That's not how that looks. That's awful. But there he is.
I give him the butt chin. That's a good time.
So I thought this was stupid at first because, well, first of all, it is, but I thought it was stupid because his like mustache was the wrong color from his hair. But then I was like, oh wait, no, that's what regular Mario looks like. And so that's very fitting. The hair is really just the worst.
Yeah,
like,
so
what kind of idiot would spike their hair up all pointy like that? What a fool!
I don't know.
He looks like a haystack simpleton.
Who would do such a thing? But no, this hair is definitely the wrong hair to give him. But I thought it was fun and playful because it does look like when Mario takes off his hat, he's got kind of that, his hair is kind of flying all over the place. But he does look more like a Square Enix, like, Final Fantasy 15 looking ass dude. But yeah. I gave him the big puffy cheeks, gave him a little rosiness to him. I gave him some pock marks in his cheeks. I gave him, you can actually really work on the butt chin there, so I gave him that. I like that the mustache is asymmetrical. You give him these big kind of, sullen eyes where he's just kind of, he's
sad because he screwed up trimming his mustache like 8 months ago, and it still hasn't come back normally.
This is definitely like depressed alcoholic Super Mario.
Well, but you couldn't have Mario without his brother, who he's always he's always ditching in a hot air balloon. And here,
this is Great Depression chimpanzee Luigi. He is. So I gave him the same mustache, a much bigger nose, longer nose. He's got a longer head, bigger ears. He looks so much sadder, and he's got different hair. As you can see, the class that I picked for them allowed them to have what the closest you can have at the start to having a overalls. Now, I suggest if you make a character like this, you want to play the whole game as him, immediately go into the options and take your helmet off. You don't want any headgear or anything like that. You want these guys running around like this. I wish we could give him a green hat. Maybe there's something like that later in the game for me to unlock. But for now, Luigi has lost his hat and he must enter the castle to try to find it.
It's a good look. Anyway, so while we're talking about Demon's Souls, Demon's Souls as a PS5 launch title is kind of a big deal because that's a really hard game. And I'm not saying that to complain about it. That's obviously one of its big selling points, but it's kind of impressive to see such a notoriously difficult game as a flagship console launch title to be there day one. And I think it is at this point it's one of the very few PS5 games that is totally built from the ground up for PS5 exclusively. So that's that's a big deal. And the weird thing about it is most people, most gamers are familiar with the Demon's Souls reputation. They're well aware that this is a difficult game and this is there to kick your ass. But for anybody who maybe accidentally picks it up because they're like, hey, cool, knights, I like knights, and jumps into it thinking it's just going to be sort of a General Zelda-like or something, they are in for a shocking surprise because this is a balls hard game.
Yeah. So you and I were talking about this. I think that Demon's Souls might be the hardest launch game ever made. Now, the thing about that is that it's not really the strongest competition in the world, right? Launch lineups are usually riddled with, family-friendly games and mini game collections, pack-in shovelware. There's, demo discs and nonsense and stuff like that. Then, the stuff like Super Mario and the Rabbids show up. Everybody has a good time. They welcome everybody in. But Demon's Souls is specifically designed to kick your ass and kill you a lot. Now, obviously, difficulty is in the eye of the beholder. There are some people that can ace this game. Our reviewer, Mitchell Saltzman, who played the original a bunch, was able to beat this game basically by dying twice in the first 24 hours of getting it before it was even out. Impressive stuff. There's a lot of you out there that can do the same. But launch games are notoriously not really the deepest things in the world, and they're also, not really the hardest things in the world. So, Max, you and I went through sort of some history of some of the harder launch games to come before this, and there really haven't been a ton of them.
So, kind of excluding some early stuff that was either basically a port of an arcade game, which arcade games are fundamentally made to make you spend a lot of quarters, so they're kind of maybe unfair in that sense. And then I guess a lot of older launch games, or a lot of launch games in general, are frequently just rushed kind of shovelware, and if thare difficult, it's because they're bad, not because
they're broken.
Deliberately. I don't know. I'm Altered Beast is kind of both of the above, that was also an arcade game. So it's again, it's a weird thing to kind of try to keep track of. But we did look back, and one series that obviously Demon's Souls or the Souls games have sort of a lot in common with. On kind of a philosophical level is the Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts series, where, it's just a fun time fantasy adventure where you rapidly get your ass kicked by monsters. And this was actually, I think it was Ghouls and Ghosts that was a launch title for the Sega Mega Drive, which again, that game, I feel like people probably knew what was in store, but also games were, I think, fundamentally a lot harder back then. And this does have its roots in, I think that was an arcade game initially.
Yeah. And so, this is obviously one of those games that is designed to kick your butt. It is obviously stylistically exactly the sort of the basis from which the FromSoft Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne games came, right? This is a brutally difficult sort of action game with multiple weapons to choose from.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Like in Demon Souls, you know, you die and you come back with half your health, and in this, you get hit once and your armor flies off, and you have to run around in your underpants. Like it's kind of, I feel like that's
in the graveyard, you know, fighting giant birds and wolves and the devil. So I like this a lot. I mean, remember when the Super Nintendo came out? Within the first few months, Super Ghouls and Ghosts came out, and it wasn't day and date on the launch, but you know, stuff like Pilot Wings and Super Mario World were, and those were fun games that you could bring people over and play. But then when you sat down and played this one, it was brutally difficult. And I remember just playing that within the first few months of my Super Nintendo, this fun, colorful system that like literally had colorful buttons, and just being like, "Damn, this is hard." So Demon Souls is scratching that itch again.
It's definitely got some familiar stuff there. Now, much more recently, I think another series that sort of has some similar DNA to the you know, the Soulsborne franchise is the modern Ninja Gaiden games. And the PlayStation Vita at launch had Ninja Gaiden Sigma Plus 2, which is like I think it's a sequel to a remake, and it's also a port thereof of, again, it's a Ninja Gaiden game. Like it's a very difficult, you know, fast-paced game that, and I think like at that point that had a similar type of reputation to what, you know, Demon Souls has going for it. And again, it's also like the Vita was definitely not quite as much of a flagship launch as the PS5. Rest in peace, poor Vita. But like that's, I mean, again, it's kind of crazy to look at just the scale of how Demon Souls is coming out. Like this is like, I don't know if anyone's going to like try to return this game and be like, it's too hard, or if anyone just is getting, you know, scared the second they jump into it. But I kind of applaud, I applaud Sony for kind of coming out, not pulling any punches. And like you were reading that there was a rumor they almost had an easy mode, but they totally didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. I think they sort of stuck with the core FromSoft philosophy, which is, you know, these things are difficult and they are incredibly rewarding to master, and they want to keep that going. And you know, honestly, I think this is a welcome addition to the PS5's launch library, because when you put it next to games like Miles Morales, which you can play on the easiest setting, Astrobot, you know, Sackboy, these are like Bug Snacks. Like these are really fun, family-friendly games. Some of them have like multiplayer to get together with a bunch of people and just like have a good time. They're not really designed to just like crush your spirit and push you to the brink of sanity, but then ultimately reward you when you overcome them. And so I welcome that, man. Like it is awesome to have such a cool game like this at launch.
Yeah, and it's like obviously like a huge undertaking of a game to make. Like this is a large game. Like I think when we look at launch titles, they're frequently kind of like, you know, they're not, even if they're good quality, they're usually kind of like smaller, you know. And this, I feel like this is on par with, you know, with something like Breath of the Wild, where it's like this is a big ass game. Like this is a lot to really just start off with day one, and that's phenomenal. So it's nice to see that. And I don't know, maybe we'll see. Yeah, maybe we'll see a remake of Bloodborne with the PlayStation 6.
Yeah, I hope so. In the meantime, we have a really awesome sort of surprise announcement that just came out today. This wasn't leaked or anything. This was deliberately put out by the developers working on it. But the team IO over at been working on the Hitman franchise for years now, is working on a 007 James Bond game, and honestly, we think it could be awesome. So this was a teaser trailer we got today. Basically, it's called Project 007. It is essentially going to be the first origin story being told in video game form, really any medium for James Bond. And it's been a long time since we've gotten a James Bond game. So and the Hitman team's perfect for it. So yeah, Max, like this sounds great, right?
So I'm a big James Bond fan. I love all the old novels, as kind of deeply offensive and poorly aged as they are, and I love all the weird campy old movies, and I really adore the modern Daniel Craig ones. And it's interesting because we all think, like, as gamers, like GoldenEye was such a significant game. Like that was one of the first, like, I think that was really the first solid console first person shooter. And that came out alongside GoldenEye, the movie, which was weirdly like
sort of alongside. It was actually about 3 years later.
But they're the same story basically. Yeah. But you know, it's the whole thing was you know, GoldenEye was basically like kind of a soft reboot of the whole Bond franchise, because it sort of meandered in the 80s and it was trying to go up against like modern action movies. And as such, like GoldenEye is pretty heavy on the action. Like you can see this trailer is definitely going like action full forward, like very loud explosions, big stuff, bungee jumping, the official sport of 1995. And you know, as such, like a first person shooter kind of reflected that. And we've seen a lot of Bond shooters since then. They're typically like third person action games or first person, but they always focus mostly on the action side of things, which isn't really the fundamental thing of Bond. Like, obviously, he is, kind of a prototypical action hero, but he's also a spy. Like, he's a secret agent. And there's a certain amount of kind of like, finesse and, stealth and deception that goes with that. And when you make a game where you're just shooting dudes in the head, that some of that gets kind of like, that goes to the side. Like, that's kind of,
Yeah.
not really it. But you look at Hitman, and that's a series that is, I mean, theoretically, it's a game about killing dudes. It's about, you're trying to assassinate people, but the way you go about it can be done with all sorts of subterfuge and like weird, kind of creative, opportunities, which seems just so completely perfect for a Bond game.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is a franchise that's had like a really interesting kind of storied and very all over the place connection with video games. There have been dedicated racing games or driving games, which focuses on one element of the character in the franchise, and then there's ones that are just straight up shooters. But I think that like IO and what they've done with Hitman makes this the kind of game where I feel like they can really celebrate everything that they're best at this studio, and that is like they have incredibly brilliant, smart level design that you can execute in a number of different ways. And I think that that's what gives you that sort of like, this is how James Bond would operate in this universe type of feeling.
Yeah, I think you look at some of the coolest scenes in Bond movies, aside from like the big action set pieces where he's like, bungee jumping off a bridge and chasing after a plane or doing parkour across like a construction site. You look at like the parts where he's just being like a really cool spy. There's a scene in Quantum of Solace. It's actually right before this where he's going to the opera. And it's I know Quantum of Solace is a divisive one, but like that part where he's just like, he basically is tracking the bad guys and he just kind of like, he basically speed runs sneaking into the opera. Like he, kicks the dude's ass and steals his tuxedo, but then hides his body and breaks the door handle off so no one can find him. And then just, I don't know. It's just like, it's like watching somebody who's really good at, a game like Hitman. And I'm so excited to see how, that team approaches that. And also like, those games they're practically puzzle games because they give you this entire sort of sandbox. They give you an objective, maybe different objectives, optional objectives, whatever. But the point is they're not like, here's the exact way you're supposed to go about doing this. It's kind of like, there's a bunch of different ways you can do this and you can get weird and creative. And that's always like that's always some of the most interesting stuff in Bond movies is when he improvises or when he gets something doesn't go right and he has to think on the fly. And that's exciting.
There's also like there's a good sense of humor in the Bond movies. Like they are serious spy thrillers, but they're also kind of funny, right? Like there are like funny moments with gadgets and Bond has his distinct charm and swagger, which leads to a lot of like very funny clips.
Those movies are funny as hell. Like I mean, it's often kind of buried, but like there's one it's the last Sean Connery. It's the one that's the remake. I forget which one it is, but he has a giant knockdown drag out fight in the middle of like a nursing home. And there's all these old people that just aren't noticing it. And it's I don't know. That's the kind of sort of tongue in cheek humor where you still have something badass and action packed happening in the forefront, but there's just a little, just a little wink and a nod happening off to the one side. And yeah, the Hitman games are full of that.
Yeah, like I think the IO totally gets that with Hitman. I mean, if you look at like there's like chicken costumes and like clown outfits and stuff like that. Like I don't expect it to go full slapstick, but I do think that they'll be able to embed a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, now, and the fact that it's an origin story also gives them a huge opportunity to kind of like start fresh. We are seeing Daniel Craig bow out of the Bond role, and they're going to replace him with somebody at some point. But it sounds like that's definitely backburnered. At the very least, they haven't even released No Time to Die because it's no time to die right now. Don't go to the movie theaters. But yeah, like this is kind of a cool holdover. I don't know when we're actually going to see it, but yeah. I mean, so in the same way that like the Arkham games and the Spider-Man kind of exist in their own video game universe, it's so cool to see hopefully Bond getting the same treatment.
Yeah, so IO is working directly with MGM on this. Their CEO, Hakan Abra, calls this the most ambitious game in the history of our studio. We got the last Hitman game was in 2018, and then we're supposed to get Hitman 3 next year. So I imagine this is being concurrently developed alongside the sort of the finish line as they bring Hitman 3 to a close. But yeah, we're getting a new Bond game, and it's going to be awesome, and I'm super excited, and you should be too. Well, not you. I know you are.
Yeah. Moving on. So one thing we've seen people already doing the PlayStation 5 has those removable wings. As I mentioned, we had to shoot this episode once. Otherwise, I would show you the wings, but I already put them back on my PS5. They're easy to pop off. You can just click them in there. You take the little standoff. You don't feel like you're going to break your PS5, but it's kind of nice that you can just do that. But some people aren't wild about the weird kind of white taco color scheme, so they have taken it upon themselves to give it custom paint jobs, which, because they're just plastic plates, is kind of okay. You know, if you were to go and spray paint your entire PlayStation, you're probably going to screw it up and get paint in the vents, or it's going to look kind of crappy. But in this case, you can do a pretty clean paint job, and it's very doable. Here's a matte black PS5 from Hawky Justin. We have a bunch of these up on IGN that people have been working on. And there's the orange and white by Crayons, which he didn't use crayons for that. I think that's
his name.
Yeah. But that's cool, like custom job there. This one's really gorgeous. This is the Spider-Man one from Arkarsh Bonsol 11, which I'm guessing that's like a nice big Spider-Man decal. And then people are also messing with the DualSense. This is clearly a really ambitious bit where the buttons are even replaced. But the DualSense itself is, if you want to customize a little bit, let me see if I can do this. The bottom black part just pops right off. It just comes off, and it's just one little stupid piece. So if you want to, like, you know, paint this your own custom color or get weird with it, you totally can, and it's not going to gunk up your analog sticks or anything.
Right.
But if you're going about painting it, I have some words of wisdom as somebody who frequently spray paint stuff and gets real weird with arts and crafts. This might be total no-brainer common sense to some people, but if you're curious, I know that spray paint can be a scary world to enter. If you want to be cautious, take your PS5 plates to a local auto body shop and they will paint them for you professionally. I saw someone on Twitter did that, said it costs like $50. But if you want to do it yourself, there are special dedicated spray paint brands that are made for use on plastic. Krylon Fusion has their own line of sort of plastic branded ones. This is just a satin black. I might try that one out. But then other types of paint, you're going to get different types of experience. Anything that's enamel is probably going to take a good chunk of time to dry. And it is currently wintertime, so depending on what part of the world you live in, it's very likely that it's cold and wet and damp, which is arguably the worst time to spray paint stuff because that needs dry heat to properly dry off. So some options there are like make sure you're somewhere well ventilated, but shooting a fan at your recently painted object is a good way to make it dry faster, and putting it in your heater is good, but not so close it's going to melt. A hairdryer is another option, but good rule of thumb is just wait a solid 24 hours before you start handling it, because if you get little fingerprints on there, it's going to look like crap and you'll hate it. Another tidbit I would recommend is the little spikes that are on the inside of the PS5 plates. Wrap those with masking tape, or maybe even mask the whole like kind of inside part of it, because any place that's going to be touching the PS5, it's more likely that paint will rub off on there. So it's something to look out for.
It also might not lock into place if you put too heavy of a coat of paint on there too.
Exactly. Yeah. It's always better to go with multiple lighter coats of paint as opposed to like one super heavy one, because you're going to get little drips and drabs in that sense. And then one tip that I think is kind of a holdover from model building is wash your surface off. Like if you're going to be painting the PS5 plates, take them to the kitchen sink and wipe them down with a sponge and dish soap. There's usually a lot of oil that kind of winds up on plastic, either because they're ejecting it from the mold at the factory or because you were handling it when you took it off. So just make that nice and oil-free and the paint will stick to it better. And obviously if you have pets, keep that cat hair, dog hair away from it, because that'll mess it up too. But yeah, it's kind of cool that this PlayStation 5 has these like, modular wings you can pop off extremely easily and, get creative with them. And I hope we get to see some more stuff like that. And I also hope that Sony releases some official extras so you can get in there and get different colored ones,
Me too. I'm in the meanwhile, there was a company called PlateStation, which Sony did shut down. They were basically taking pre-orders to do custom plate painting for the PS5 side panels. So that wasn't an option. But I think the fact that you can pop them off pretty easily means that we're going to see, if we haven't already, a bunch of sort of decal sites pop up. But yeah, I think I might go the auto body route. I was like just on Yelp looking up a few in walking distance from me, and I'll give them a call and be like, make this all black, so I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to get any drips on it. And
No, I mean,
just
cars are things that are often made of plastic that needs to be very, smooth and evenly painted. That also needs to be able to withstand heat, which is one issue with if you're just spray painting the plates. Um,
now, obviously,
yeah.
One thing we do have to say is I'm pretty sure this could potentially void your warranties, so proceed with caution.
At the very least, it would totally screw up your resale value unless you do a really cool paint job and get to like eBay it as like a custom. Custom art
now
piece.
we have seen console manufacturers in the past sort of sell parts piecemeal on their official websites. Sometimes they have sort of like a shop on Nintendo's online store, for example, which will let you, buy a different shell for your Nintendo Wii or something like that. We don't know if that's going to be a thing here, but hopefully it is. So if you need to get a spare, you can go tag them up, or get them painted or light them on fire, whatever you got to do. And
everyone forgets it, but the base PS4 had a faceplate that could pop off.
Yeah,
and Sony sold like officially licensed, custom ones that I guess nobody really bought. So I mean, I hope they don't go this route this time around. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Well, what do you say, Max? Do you want to get out of here? Should we do one more story?
Let's call it. Again, apologies for not being live this week and for doing a real rushed episode. We're kind of entering the weird, frantic holiday season. We're going to try to do this show every week. I think next week we're probably off because it's Thanksgiving here in America. But from all of us here at Up at Noon, we hope you have a wonderful, safe, happy holiday, and we'll probably be back in a couple weeks then.
Yeah, we'll see you very soon, and thank you so much for watching. This was very, very fun, and we miss you, and we'll be back shortly.
Goodbye, everybody.
Happy birthday.